So in the 2021 NBA draft, the Houston Rockets will have the second pick in the draft. And I'm pretty sure it's been quite a while since the Rockets have had a pick this high due to the fact that they were led by James Harden, who's a superstar who led them to high seeds and just the playoffs in general ever since he joined. So this second overall pick is a pretty big deal. And having a second overall pick is kind of different than having the first overall pick, because a lot of times everyone already knows who's going to be selected with the first overall pick, and this year it's going to be Cade Cunningham. But with the second overall pick, there are many different prospects who I could see the Houston Rockets selecting. So in today's video, I'll be discussing the 3 most likely potential prospects the Rockets could select with the second overall pick, and I'll predict which one they will select, as well as whether or not the Rockets could potentially trade the second overall pick for the first overall pick. Before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video as it does help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want weekly NBA content, and to my goal of 1,500 subscribers. Comment on this video, start a conversation with me as I do respond to all of my comments, and play that intro. But before we get into talking about the prospects that the Houston Rockets might select with the second pick, Houston has actually been rumored to potentially try and trade for the first overall pick in this year. And I assume this is because they truly believe that Cade Cunningham is significantly better than all of the other prospects in this draft, and that he will for sure be a superstar level player. And I'm not gonna lie, that's not too crazy of a thought process, since Cade is just that good. A trade that I think the Rockets would probably make if they wanted to get the #1 pick would probably like trading the number 2 pick to them and then giving up Jason Tate, their rookie, also Christian Wood, and 2 of the future Brooklyn Nets picks. And you might be thinking that's a little bit too much just to go up 1 spot, but you have to realize that the Pistons don't necessarily have to trade this pick. Now if I'm the Pistons, you don't trade the #1 overall pick unless a team is going to overpay for it. And if the Rockets truly believe Cade Cunningham is a superstar player and he's going to be better than everyone else, then they should be willing to give up a guy like Christian Wood for it. Because although I really like Christian Wood, at best he's going to be an all-star level player, which is definitely valuable, don't get it twisted, but Cade is a guy who has superstar potential. And there's also teams like the Cavaliers who are going to be offering probably Colin Sexton and some other first round picks that might be more value. So the Rockets have competition, and if Cade actually turns into a real life superstar, then them overpaying for him will not matter at all due to the fact that he turned into a superstar. If I had to guess what team is most likely to trade for the first overall pick, it would probably be the Rockets, Cavaliers, or the Thunder. Out of those 3 teams, I think the Thunder are the most likely to trade for it, since they're only at the 6th pick and they're probably desperate, and the Thunder have the most assets out of those 3 teams because they're the Thunder. They have like 5 million picks. So if the Thunder really want this #1 overall pick, all I'm going to say is that they can trade for it if they want, but Houston definitely has a chance to get the first overall pick, and I think that's somewhat a realistic possibility. The first guy I'm going to talk about in this draft that I think the Rockets could legitimately select with the second overall pick is a guy in Evan Mobley, who I think the Rockets should definitely consider taking. He's a guy who might not necessarily have the same superstar potential that a guy like Cade Cunningham has, but he definitely could be a really good NBA player. Mobley's a 7-foot, 250-pound center. A lot of people like to compare him to guys like Pau Gasol and Chris Bosh. What stands out about him is the fact that he seems like a center who is perfect for today's modern NBA due to the fact that he's a guy who can switch onto the perimeter at a good level because he's very quick for his size. He's also very good at protecting the rim. He's also a very fast big man who can often outrun others on the court, especially in the fast break for easy points. He's not a great 3-point shooter. He doesn't really attempt them, but he has solid form from the mid-range area. And in the post, he has quite a lot of moves from face-ups, jump hooks, and things like that. He's pretty good a passer out of the post. He's not Nikola Jokic, nobody is, but he can hit open guys and he has pretty good vision. He also has shown the ability to handle the ball at a decent level for his size, which is definitely a huge advantage since we've seen guys like Nikola Jokic, Bam Adebayo, Yusuf Nurkic elevate their team due to the fact that they can handle the ball. Some of his weaknesses is the fact that he has a pretty weak motor, because a lot of times people question as whether or not he wants it as bad as he should, and some people question how much he loves the game of basketball. He's also 7 foot and he's only 215 pounds, so there is a chance that he could get out muscled by bigger NBA centers when he comes into the league, but he could probably fix that out if he works out more. So nonetheless, Mobley seems like one of the best big men talents over the last few years, since guys like Anthony Davis, Karl Anthony Towns were really good. I truly believe that there is a chance that Mobley could end up becoming the best player coming out of this draft. I don't think he has the highest ceiling or anything, and I probably would put that on Cade because Cade is just really good, but I definitely think Mobley will be good. He does remind me of a guy like DeAndre Ayton a little bit because he's perfect for the modern NBA. So the Rockets should definitely be happy if they're able to get Mobley. The only problem is that the Rockets currently have a center in Christian Wood who just came off of a very elite season where he looked like a top 10 center in the league, where he was averaging 21 points and 10 rebounds on crazy efficiency. I feel like if Mobley joined this team, he would be forced to play on the bench, and for some players that could stunt their development, and that might happen to Mobley because we saw how it did with Mo Bamba in Orlando. Or it could just force them to have to trade Christian Wood, which is something I don't think they should do, since I think he can be an all-star level player, and he's only 25 years old, so he's going to be good for a long time, and he's going to be a huge piece for their rebuild. I don't necessarily know if Christian Wood is a good enough player to where you pass up on prospects for him, but I really think he's a good player. So if Houston is not 100% locked in on Mobley, maybe they should look into another prospect, but Mobley's definitely going to be good. The next prospect I'll discuss, who I think the Rockets could potentially select with their second overall pick, is Jalen Green. Green's a 6'5" shooting guard who probably has the best athleticism and vertical jump in the draft class. He has a very explosive first step that allows him to get to the basket easier than most other prospects. He can finish plays above the rim and he excels in transition. Not only does he attack the rim with aggression, but he does it with finesse when he needs to. He draws fouls at a good rate, which is an underrated skill you need in the NBA to be an elite scorer. He's shown the ability to create his own shot and get his shot off with minimal space. He's a pretty streaky shooter, but when he's on fire, he's nearly unguardable. To point out some of his weaknesses, it's the fact that although he has a pretty solid handle, his handles are very loose and they're not tight. Also, at times, he relies on his natural athleticism a little bit too much. He also apparently struggles with the shot selection as he takes too much jump shots at times when he should just attack the rim. He's definitely not a great passer. He's not really looking to pass the ball. As I said, he's a pretty streaky three-point shooter, and for his size, he's not an outstanding rebounder. He's not a liability, but he's not a guy who's going to go out and get a bunch of rebounds. I forgot to mention, he's also a pretty solid defender due to his athleticism and quick hands. He's probably not going to be a lockdown defender, but he's far from a liability, and I'd say he's pretty solid to good on defense. In my opinion, Green is a prospect who can either become a legit NBA star and maybe even a superstar due to his athleticism and just his confidence and his ability to hit shots, or he could be a legitimate NBA bust. In my opinion, I think he's kind of a hit or miss player. I can't really see him just going into the NBA and being a role player or a bench player in the NBA. He's either going to come into the NBA and be like a star kind of player, or he's just going to be a bust. I really like Green's game, and I think he has some really good potential. I just honestly question whether or not I feel it would be the smartest decision to choose him with the second overall pick. If the Rockets decide to select him, though, I think it would make a lot of sense due to the fact that the Rockets right now don't really have a player to be their franchise cornerstone. Because Kevin Porter Jr. has very good potential, don't get it twisted, but he hasn't shown that he's that level of a player, even though he could. And although Christian Wood is a really good center, I don't think he's a franchise cornerstone. I think he's going to be a really big piece when they start to try and be a good team. But Jalen Green is a guy who I think can actually be a superstar, and if they select him and he actually reaches his full potential and becomes a superstar, it would honestly be amazing selection and be amazing for their franchise. It would make them look very smart. But to be honest, I think they should consider drafting him, but I don't think this is going to be the guy they select. The third and last prospect we will discuss that I think the Rockets should potentially select with the second overall pick in this year's draft is Jalen Suggs from Gonzaga. Suggs is a 6'4" point guard who just plays the game very well. He's a tough guard who will bring a lot of veteran leadership to this team. Suggs has elite athleticism. He has a great feel when attacking the basket, and he has a very good ability handling the ball. And we just add in that with his athleticism, it's really scary. He often blows by defenders. Suggs is one of the best passers in the draft. He might be the best passer because he's always looking for his teammates. He might even be a pass first point guard. I don't know if he's generational passer or anything like that, but he definitely is a good one. He has an assortment of moves when it comes to finishing at the rim due to his athleticism and his ability to finesse. He's also a very good rebounder for his height as he always attacks the glass. Suggs has the ability to play the shooting guard position due to how well he moves off the ball, despite him only being 6'4". He's also a very good help defender due to his IQ and athleticism, and due to the fact that he just tries very hard. He's also very good at stealing the ball and forcing turnovers and things like that. To avoid some of his weaknesses, it's the fact that he's a very inconsistent shooter from the three-point line and from the free throw line. He's a pretty good form, so it's not unrealistic to see that he could turn into a good shooter in the NBA. It's just in college he was a very inconsistent shooter. He also turns the ball over a lot at times, and on defense sometimes he loses sight of his man. You might have heard it somewhere, but I think like some NBA players said, I think it was maybe Shaq, but they said Suggs wasn't the best player on his Gonzaga team because he wasn't the most aggressive player or things like that, and that definitely could be used as a negative because in the March Madness tournament at times it looked like Suggs really got passive, and when it came down to whether or not the Rockets should draft him, to be honest, I think there's a legitimate chance that they will draft him due to the fact that he could play both positions. And the thing with the Rockets is they already have Kevin Porter Jr., who showed that he plays very well at the point guard position. Both of them can play either of the positions, so I think there's a chance it could work out. The only problem is that they're both pretty short, but I guess both of them could play either position because both of them are a little tall for the point guard position, but both of them are a little short for the shooting guard position. But I think they can make it work, also due to the fact that Suggs could play defense, and I think Suggs could bring some leadership back into the city of Houston after they just lost their superstar in James Harden. They could also work well in the pick and roll with Christian Wood and things like that. I think the Rockets should definitely consider drafting Suggs. I don't think he has the highest potential of guys like Jalen Green, Evan Mobley, and obviously Kate Cunningham, but I think he has a pretty good floor because I think he'll be a solid point guard in the NBA, at worst, due to just how smart he is and how much athleticism he has. So I think Suggs to a certain degree is kind of a safer pick. He's also a very tough point guard, so I doubt the NBA is going to make him fall off. So if the Rockets truly want to go for the safe pick, then I feel like Suggs is the guy to go. And now to predict who I think the Rockets will select with the second overall pick. If I'm being honest, I think there's a legitimate chance that they will trade for the number one pick. But if they do decide to keep their pick, I believe the Rockets will select Evan Mobley because out of all the prospects, he has the best mixture of a high potential and a high floor. Because with Jalen Suggs, I feel like he has a high floor but a little bit of a lower ceiling, and Jalen Green has a really high ceiling but a very low floor. So I feel like if Houston's not gonna go too crazy with this pick, I think Mobley is the legitimately second best player in this NBA draft. So they probably should select the second best player because they're not really in a position to be passing up on guys. But if you ask for my opinion, who I think the Rockets should select, that guy is Jalen Green. Because I feel like Green would fit really well alongside Kevin Porter Jr. and he would be on a team where he could do anything he wants to a certain degree, and I feel like that would really help his development and turn into a superstar. But I feel like the Rockets are going to select Mobley. That's definitely not a bad pick, but something just tells me that they should select Green. But to conclude the video, I didn't mention other prospects like Jonathan Kuminga, Keon Johnson, or Davion Mitchell, simply because I don't think there's a realistic chance that those guys selected with the second overall pick. Not saying none of those guys are bad prospects or anything like that. I just don't think Houston's going to take a risk and select one of those guys. If one of those guys are going to get selected earlier, it's probably going to be with the third, fourth, or fifth pick. It's not going to be with the second overall pick. But yeah, I feel like the Rockets are going to select Evan Mobley, which definitely isn't a bad pick, and he's not a bad prospect at all. But I just feel like they should select Jalen Green. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Let me know what you think the Rockets are going to do with the second overall pick. Drop a like on this video to help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Answers my goal of 1,500 subscribers. Comment as a start conversation as I do respond to every single one of my comments. And I'm out.